Hello and welcome to Talking Live. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig right here in Starshot Studio. And today we have two best friends who are also best-selling authors. We have Linda Fairstein and Jane Stanton Hitchcock. Both of them have new novels that are out, Blood, Oath and Bluff. And we're going to hear all about their friendship, how they influence one another, and all about their latest book. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for asking us.
I mean,
so fun.
I love being around you. I feel like I just want to be the third friend.
Come on in. Come on.
I'll be the third friend. Yeah, it's okay if I get left out of certain dinner parties. I'm good with that. But I was saying to both of you, and I was reading about you last night, and Linda, of course, we know each other,
Yes,
and you've
we
been
go way
on the
back.
show before, one of the rare guests who's been on twice, actually. You were promoting your
Honored,
children's
thrilled.
book. I'm
Right.
honored. It's rare to find two women who could be best friends for such a long time and have a meaningful relationship. And it's enviable because many women can't achieve that. What's your secret?
We just bonded immediately when we met, I think, and we were from two very different spheres of life, but we absolutely loved each other when we met, and that's how it happened.
And I think what Jane has that I treasure in a friend that I think is rare among women, and we were surrounded by some women who fell away because of this, is a sense of loyalty, is a loyalty and in that friendship that just doesn't let you tear your good friend apart. And so when I started to write novels, and Jane's written plays, and they've been put on in the West End in London, and books and stories and poems, I'm sure sonnets, I think.
Laundry list.
And laundry list.
Laundry list.
I love that when I read that. I was like, I can relate to the laundry list.
And so many of our mutual acquaintances put me down and
Well, people
said,
like to pigeonhole people. And Linda was a brilliant prosecutor. She wrote a brilliant book called Sexual Violence, but she was relegated to the nonfiction area. And nobody really thought that, well, she's got all this, wealth of what I call talent, and also, cases that she could fictionalize, and I knew she could write fiction.
but Jane believed in me.
I did.
And when others around us fell apart
Oh,
or
yes,
would
yes.
snipe, I'm thinking back over our shoulder in Times Square as we sat down on the couch is a big pink sign that says Mean Girls. And we
know
knew a
them.
few.
We know them.
Yeah.
And this
we
is
can
not
be
that.
them on occasion, let's face
Oh,
it.
just
It makes
That's
me
not a
very
telephone.
sad when women compete with one another because really there's room for everybody if you have that mindset and if you're confident.
There's not room for everybody, darling. Let's get that
Well,
there's one bluff, and that's there.
There's not room for everybody. There are a few people I could very much dispense with, but
You do know what I'm saying,
Yes,
though,
no, I'm
and
kidding,
I
I'm
do
kidding.
get the sense that in your friendship that you're well wishers for one another.
Yes.
That
and
we are.
that's also rare.
and for a lot of women in general, and particularly for
Yes.
older women, oh my God. Part of the thing with Bluff is I say older women are invisible and we don't even have to disappear. I mean, as you get older, you really need more of the support of women and men and everybody else and dogs and everybody else because it gets harder. And we're all in it together. We're all in the same lifeboat. And, part of the theme of this is being overlooked and using that disability as a big asset and as a surprising way to get what you want.
And Jane
Including
should tell
murder.
Jane should
Yeah.
tell you about Bluff and her real poker playing talent and how that came to be.
Well-
because we were young. I just want she should do that old bat thing. But we were in our 30s when we met, so it's not like a friendship that started when we got to our walkers.
I do want to get into the poker, but I also am curious how you both have changed over the years. Do you notice
Have I changed?
certain
I'm so
certain
upset.
characteristics have
Hear that.
changed since you've experienced such success? Because you've had success personally and professionally, and there are some people that get lopsided. They have professional success, but not the personal success.
The personal
Two of
success
you
is
have-
so much more important.
Yeah.
Believe me. And people don't believe that,
And
but
people-
it's absolutely true. I say success cools the more you cling to it for warmth. And it's really true.
Write that
It's,
one
it's
down.
because it's not
It's
long
in there,
lasting.
darling.
It's not really long lasting.
It's on a needlepoint pillow.
What's interesting about your novel is that it's based on real life events.
It is, certainly is.
It was based on a real life trauma. And you talk about a little bit how poker, this novel was based on your poker game. But I want to talk about the original trauma that happened because you came from wealth. Your mother was a famous actress on Broadway.
And Lois Lane.
And Lois Lane. We have a picture.
First on radio.
First on radio.
First on radio.
For which she will be remembered. And the first Della Street, for those of you who still remember Perry
Mason. My God.
Did you ever want to be an actress because your mother was an actress?
She
Oh,
is
no,
an
darling. I
actress.
wanted to be a playwright so I could put my mother on the stage and boss her around.
I love that. I love that. And your father brought Volkswagen, your
My
stepfather.
stepfather. This is an important distinction because this
Stepfather.
is all in the book because my parents were divorced when I was very young and my mother remarried and my stepfather was wonderful but she hated my real father and so that's part of the message of the book that one of the reasons that the person in the book was able to divide us was because he knew that my mother had a little problem with my real father.
So was able to use that weakness and
But,
exploit
He
it.
exploited just about every weakness
Yeah.
possible.
So you came from a lot of wealth,
Yeah.
but at one point, a lot of it was taken away.
Yes, it was swindled. My mother was
Swindled.
swindled by a guy she loved and really treated like a son, and introduced to everybody from Mike Nichols to Neil Simon to. I mean, she introduced my stepfather and mother were quite in that world of the theater and the arts, and she introduced together introduced this guy to everybody, and then he took a lot of money. And so I was dealing with this when my mother died, and she did understand at the end of her life what he had done, and it broke her heart. And in 2009, she died, and so I was so depressed, and my darling husband, Jim Hoagland, was dealing with all the issues, and I was depressed, and I began playing poker on the internet because my grandmother always used to play cards with me, and she said, love the cards and the cards will love you, and this was like oatmeal for me.
I love that. That's so zen.
Yeah, no, it was really sweet, and I loved the cards, but on the internet I wasn't, this old bat in fuzzy slippers.
So who were you? Because you became
Buffalo
someone else.
Bill 239. I mean, I'm probably not that exact moniker because I don't want somebody logging onto my site, but the thing is, and so I was sitting there, pretending to be this very aggressive player, mad, bad, dangerous to know. And I would ask Jim for, Redskin tips, so I would sound very, very erudite about
Authentic.
football and everything. And then they shut down internet poker. I was depressed for a year, and a friend of mine said, you can play live poker. But I thought, well, now they're going to see me like I really am, an old fat. What am I going to do?
Linda, what do you say to your best friend
No,
when
but
she
it's
refers to herself
in
that way?
No, because in the poker world, I am like everybody's vampire. I mean, they don't even know. Some of them don't even know there was a Vietnam. I mean,
Right.
we're talking about kids.
You see these games, the world tournaments that Jane goes to, and you look around the table, and there are
They're
these
all free.
23-year-old guys, and sunglasses and cigarettes slouching around like that, and they would have no more idea of what this young woman has done in her life.
Yeah.
And so she plays
Nor would they
it to the
care, I
hill.
might add. They
they
care
might
whether
not.
you can
They might not.
play poker.
But they
which is
just,
awesome.
I think, ignore women in general unless they're sitting
It
naked at the
tends to
table,
be a male game.
and then they have no idea of the brain power of Jane, and she's a skill. She can imitate anybody. She can do.
This is praise from Caesar. Come
But
on.
and you sit at that table, and it's scary when I turn on the TV to think that she could. It's like the best undercover in my business, penetrating that table and being taken.
That's what I should have been, a CI.
Well, CI.
But I do say older women are invisible, and we don't even have to disappear because we are invisible, not just at the poker table, but in society, and that's very sad.
Do you think we can change that, or do you think after reading this book, people will want to change that?
Wouldn't
about
that be
older-
wonderful?
Yeah.
I would sincerely doubt it, but one can live in hope. But I would like to talk about my friend Linda.
I know. Finish this though, of how you went from the horrible victorization of your mother, from whom much money
But
was
you
taken.
helped me
I tried
early
not
on.
even, well,
I
tried
went to the district attorney in secret with Linda.
to report this.
To
In the
report this,
meantime,
and they didn't believe me.
many other famous people
Oh, wow.
were being swindled by the same
They wouldn't
guy
listen.
and went to the federal prosecutor,
Yeah, well, that's
who
right.
took them more seriously,
Well, that wasn't
quicker.
until later, though.
Right.
You know, I said to the prosecutor who I went to, I said, what they do to one, they will do to another.
Absolutely.
And I just waited. And in 3 years, he did to someone else more famous what he had done to us, and they used our case to, help us.
So once he took the money, the
Yeah.
families were out of money, right? That was, he didn't repay it. He couldn't give it back. There wasn't anything to give back.
Well, the thing is, that's almost irrelevant because that's like ancient history. But what I had to exercise in the book was how families let these con men into their lives without knowing it. And it's almost like poker players are con men, but in a kind of a different sense. But I had a feeling about con men that I was able to use with poker and understand that a little bit. It's a trust issue. Are you going to trust this person at the table? Are you going to trust him in life? Are you going to trust him with money? Are you going to trust him with chips? What are you doing? And so that was I decided to frame the story of my life with poker. But I included a little bit more, like murder, revenge.
Yes, made it juicier.
Yeah.
I do love how you talk about poker like, theater.
It is.
And
Every
how,
hand a scene.
You really highlight some themes I'm really interested in terms of money and what that does to a person. And kind of this idea that we think if you're wealthy, then you're happy.
Money-
Or if you're wealthy, you're successful.
Money exaggerates who you are. If you're good, you'll be better, and if you're bad, you'll
Why do you think that is?
jump on the devil's trampoline. Because people are, they're the same all over, and there are good people and bad people, and the money is just going to heighten that. But also, poker is mental war, and it's the one place where women can actually win.
Yeah.
Because we'll never win if you go hand-to-hand combat, with a Marine or something like that. But we can win at the table.
Why do you think more women are not involved in this game? And Linda, you don't play, even though your friend
No, but
is
you're the
amazing.
mind person. I mean, I think we grow up, there aren't a lot of women who do it as kids, as young women. It is a very male world.
Very.
And so, I mean, I went into a career that was dominated by men as a young lawyer, but this is something else.
But you felt didn't you feel prejudiced against when you went into your
Oh,
career?
I mean, yes, as many viewers, if they're of a certain age, will remember in many careers how hard it was to go in. But this is it's the visual. You're in one room and it can be terrifically grungy. I mean, here's somebody I know who heads turn. Because when Jane walks into a room,
Always.
she is the most stylish person.
Not at the
And
poker table.
That's
You
what I'm
should see
saying.
me.
Probably can't
That's
see
what
your
I'm
shoes,
saying
but they're
is
really
so
fabulous.
different.
Help me, Rhonda.
That's
I
what's
look
so-
like
I
so
know.
bad at the poker table.
Well, I know, but you're doing that. It's part of the act.
I just want to be comfy.
So I can't. It's asking me. The question was to me. How did I follow? I mean, I couldn't follow you. You had such a skill at penetrating the room, and she is brilliant. She can do anything. She can capture 20 thoughts at the same time and go from
ADD.
telling me about writing books to telling me what the person at lunch said, and then telling me about what one of our dear friends did that she shouldn't have done. And then it's the cards. And suddenly Jane enters this new world, and she mastered it. She just...
No, it mastered me, honestly. And I learned more about life through poker than I've ever learned
What did you learn?
about life. Next
That's
hand.
true. Next hand.
Next hand. And
Next hand.
What
the
does that
first time,
mean?
wasn't it the first time my new husband, who loves Janie
Oh, this
as
is
much
a
as
great
the other,
story.
first time we had dinner together, first time we met her, and he's just fascinated by the fact that Jane says, well, what are you doing next week? I'm going to the World Tournament of
World
Poker in Las
Series.
Vegas, World
Yeah,
Series of
Vegas,
Poker.
right.
No, not really. We're back and forth, and he slams
Yes, he
$1,000
slams down
on the
and
table.
says, I want a piece of you.
Oh,
I want
that's
to thank
great.
you. And it's just, she's dazzling. And then to take it, and every slice of that book is
Wow.
poker is from the point of view of a poker game.
Well, it's about being overlooked and underestimated and using that to great advantage, you know, from just being an older woman to committing murder, let's face it.
And imagine if you can commit a
the
murder
Me Too
and
murder
be the
moment.
one who's not noticed.
Right,
because
to get
nobody
away with
sees
it.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be nice in fantasy?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, don't we
That
all
is
like
what
that
she
idea a
does.
little bit?
But I've been a character in Linda's books for years, and so
Totally.
and now she's a character in this book,
How exciting. What's the name of Linda's character in your book?
Lydia Fairley.
Okay.
And then another lawyer who I met
Also-
playing poker, Linda Kenny Baden.
I know
Who'll be a
Linda.
great, of course
She's
she
married
would.
to Michael.
Yes,
I've
she
done
is.
shows with
Yes,
her.
she is.
I was surprised to hear she did poker too.
Oh yeah.
That's how
Can
we
you
met.
imagine?
We met at a poker
Oh,
tournament.
wow.
We didn't,
She's impressive.
oh my
Very,
I love them as a
very,
couple, too.
very.
And she has a big scene in this book, not as big as this one, who saves me.
Kill you.
But Linda has a big scene because she was. Oh, we would be at the poker tournaments talking about how I could get away with murder, and then I'd call Linda to check up.
So
prosecutor.
Linda, that we're talking about, Kenny Baden, is the best defense attorney you'd ever
In the
want,
world,
and here
right.
I'm the prosecutor.
Right.
So Jane is, she's got her
Back and
two
forth.
experts back and forth. It
love
was
it.
great.
Back and forth.
I
yeah.
love it.
Could I get 2 more fantastic research assistants?
Women,
With
women.
lifetimes of fabulous careers behind them? No.
And this book was something that didn't come naturally. Well, I don't want to say naturally, but it took 19 tries.
19 drafts.
Yeah, 19 drafts.
Yeah, it was hell to write.
Now, Jane's husband, Jim, whom we've mentioned, who is brilliant, has won 2 Pulitzer Prizes.
incredible.
So when I say this poor guy had to read it 19
drafts.
times.
She had to read it 4
I
times,
think
which
4.
was enough.
I think 4.
I think that's it. Well, this is my summer reading. Just so
Okay.
you know, on the
Awesome.
beach, I'm bringing this with me.
Carry them everywhere.
You know,
Absolutely.
I do not want to forget about your book
Yeah,
because it's
exactly.
so timely. No, we're going to get to everyone. The main protagonist has been through a crime, right? She was kidnapped and dealing with
Few
her
books
own
back.
trauma.
Right.
And you deal with some very important Me Too themes in this book.
So before the movement started,
Yeah.
I got to this idea because a man I knew, he is the villain in this book, no more of a spoiler than that, but a man I actually sat on a board with, a very important board, was very prominent, had risen to great prominence in his career, was quite well known and famous, and had actually 20 years earlier molested a young woman who was in his care as a teenager. And for 20 years, he'd call her once a year and say, "Are you all right?" And she'd say, I'm okay, I'm okay. The 20th year, she finally realized in her mid-30s, her whole life had been ruined, derailed by this guy, and she was ready to confront him. And she confronted him and she taped it. So audio taped it. So she had him admitting on tape. I don't want to make it that easy for my prosecutor and detective, Alex
Yeah.
Cooper, Mike Chapman, but I present the same kind of lead up to a story, and they have to figure out if this young woman is a reliable reporter, is she telling the truth, and how could they ever prove it?
But it's such a great book because it's a nuanced and very deep investigation of, coming up with something that happened many, many years ago and the impact that it has, and that you don't even realize you're having this impact, on yourself.
One of the challenges, too, with sex crimes is that when people report it, and it can be reported many years later, just because of the level of shame, it's like the person is treated almost like they're lying, which is the
Well,
challenge.
yes.
Yeah.
And you know that from your work.
Yeah.
I think we discussed that on TV many
Yes.
times. And so here, Alex Cooper's job is to believe people, but with some critical attention, because in this case, in the fictional case, it's been 10 years, and there is no scientific evidence. There is no DNA or magical fix to it. So you really see, I try and show her skill
You
as a
absolutely do.
prosecutor to try and
her
ferret out.
intuition really is very important here because you've seen, Alex, as you, have seen it all. You've seen the liars, you've seen the truth tellers, the innocent and the guilty all at once, and so there's a level of...
And the truth is in the nuance. You also are known for using major themes in New York City
Yes.
as being another character.
So fun, yeah.
So Roosevelt University.
Rockefeller
sorry,
University. That's
Rockefeller.
right.
I'm
Sorry.
getting on my
Don't mean to
presidents.
correct you.
No, thank you.
Oh, but
Please
tell
do.
about the
Please do.
So
Well,
we're
in
in a-
fact, we have a photo of it.
So there's elegant gates on York Avenue. It hides in plain sight in the
Yes.
middle of Manhattan.
Yes.
It's more than 100 years old, founded by John Rockefeller. And it's the premier medical institute. As Mike Chapman would say, it's called university, but there are no cheerleaders, no football team. It's
right.
just
It's the
all
intellectual
super
mind.
scientists. And they're trying to make the world a better place and find cures for disease. So I was invited in to talk about DNA to the scientists. And then in return, they gave me a tour. And there are some very dark, really creepy places, including underground tunnels built more than a century ago. And there are no blueprints anymore because they're so old. So the detective who runs security said, "You want to go down? You want to put a hard hat on and see where they go?" And so I knew I had my venue.
That was music to your ears.
Yes.
Right? I mean, do you
Take me
No,
under your-
I don't think I'll go. Let's have a coffee in
Let's
the cafeteria.
just warm up.
Before we close, I do something called the Quick Five. So I thought, how great to have two BFFs answer these questions.
All
So
right.
they're easy, and I'd be interested in hearing what you guys think.
Okay.
Okay, I don't care who goes first.
This is a quiz.
What
first.
do most people think about you that is absolutely not true? Jane?
It is absolutely not true.
Not true.
That I'm a terrible poker player.
Oh, okay. Linda,
Good
what about
dive.
you?
Good dive. Sorry?
What about
Oh,
you?
what about? Oh, same question.
Same question.
What is that I'm not so smart?
Oh,
Not smart enough to write a novel. Not smart enough to write 20
No,
novels.
they don't think
Okay.
On the
that.
That they
20th?
think I'm such a serious, okay,
No.
that I was such a serious prosecutor that they didn't believe, except for Jane Hitchcock, that I could write 20 crime novels.
so they didn't
They didn't-
know.
They didn't
this
know about
truth
the creative
you.
side.
Okay.
Well, they certainly do now, Di.
They
Just
do
saying.
now.
No.
Who would you like to most sit next to on a 10-hour flight and why?
Nobody.
Nobody. That is so Jane. That's so
No,
Jane.
you can't name her. Forget it. I want the seat vacant.
I know. I often feel unfriendly when I'm like, don't talk to me, don't talk to me.
And I want to sit next to Jane for exactly that reason.
No, you don't. Possibly my dog.
Your dog. Do you think the convenience of technology is worth the loss of privacy that comes with it?
Is this for me?
Well, Linda, do you want to answer
I
this
do.
first?
I mean,
Okay.
I think we're morphing constantly into finding ways to protect that privacy. And of course, I haven't been, all my information hasn't been made public yet. But I love it. I mean, I'd be a much more efficient writer if I didn't spend the first hour on email trying to find you. And I don't know. I think its uses are extraordinary. And yes, we learn as we go along. There have to be protections.
Yeah.
I have bought a candle and a quill. I am leaving the world.
You're leaving the world of the
I
internet.
just-
Did you refer to it as the devil?
Yes.
Before,
yes. One of my first tweets. When I didn't know what this meant, I said we thought he would come in another form, but he
Yeah.
actually is the internet.
I think some
Okay.
people might believe you.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
Babel being built every day, and my
Yeah.
opinion counts.
What is something that can't be taught and can only be learned with age?
Oh, so it can't be taught. Very few things can be taught.
Yeah.
You know, talent can't be taught.
No. I want to say self-confidence comes with aging, but I don't know. if
Sometimes.
that's,
I mean, sometimes it does.
Sometimes. And a
Okay.
facelift, of course.
Well,
Not there.
you have the right doctor.
That's right. We must,
Yeah, the right doctor.
we must change in order to stay the same. A
Yes,
great novel
yes,
said that. The
yes.
Leopard. Lampedusa. Yeah, I think what can't be taught that comes with age, just that you don't really care as much about the things you thought you cared about, and that is such a good thing.
It's such a good thing.
And as you get older, you should get kinder. because everybody's been through it and we've all made the most horrible mistakes, and we should really be just a lot kinder to each other.
I agree.
The first part I was going to say first, but I didn't. That was brilliant. The second part about being kinder, it should come with age. And sadly, it doesn't always. And that's one of the things that makes an intensely dear friendship so special.
And it does surprise me with people. Kindness surprises me more than cruelty, which is sad now.
It is sad.
It is sad, yeah.
But
But I agree with you as a
She's
therapist.
the
I see
kindest
it.
person I know.
Well, not
Well,
really.
I can only hope to have a friendship like yours, because you truly are both role models. What makes you say, "What was I thinking," when you look back on your life?
Wearing this outfit.
And these ladies are a lot of fun. A lot of
It's
fun.
gonna stick to me. I should have worn a looser dress, but I just tried to look good for the show.
And you do. And you do. Who needs to breathe? Breathing's so outdated.
What was I
And it's-
thinking?
What were you thinking?
I don't know. So many things to look back on. What was I thinking when I ate that extra ice cream cone? Clearly, I don't know.
I just
Nope,
wanna-
nothing profound.
I just want to say that the two of you will be at Barnes and Noble, and we will have a link and signing both your books, Blood, Oath, and Bluff. Where? There's several different Barnes and Noble. So
East
is there one-
86th Street,
Oh my God! Right near me. Okay.
between 3rd and 2nd.
We'll see you there.
Okay. On the Upper
Don't.
East
We're
Side.
coming after you, darling.
I love it. I love it. And we'll have a link up so you can find both these fabulous ladies. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Check out these books. You're going to be happy that you did.
So fun. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Mention